Produce, and today I'm making raspberry jam. Here in the pot we have raspberry puree that all I did was I took raspberries that I had frozen previously in the summer, and I put them through this sieve. It has several different names, but you can, anyways, we put it through here to and run it through here, and it takes out a lot of the extra seeds so that there's not so many seeds in the raspberry jam. Then it's real simple. It's just sugar and raspberry puree and then pectin. I know this looks like a lot of sugar, but this is actually a reduced sugar recipe. So we're using the reduced sugar pectin that you can use for low sugar, or actually you can use no sugar, but it would be pretty tart. And I'm using cane sugar. I like cane sugar rather than regular generic sugar because it's not modified genetically cane. So I'm going to put the raspberries on the stove, the puree. Okay, and put it on about medium high. Get a really long spoon. So the first thing, this is backwards from the way it used to be. You used to add the sugar and the pectin at the same time, or the sugar first and then the pectin, but now they actually tell you to add the pectin first and then the sugar. So it can be kind of confusing, but if you ever have any problems, the directions are right under the lid, or the label here. And yep, just double checking. I actually messed the recipe up a few times doing it the old way. I don't know why they keep changing things. It's actually easier to do this part with a whisk. Stir it a little bit. Make sure it's all in there really well. I have an old trick that if you put a couple of metal spoons in the freezer while your jam is cooking and get them cold, you'll know for sure, and I'll show you how at the end, if your jam will actually set at the end or not, so that you'll know if, you know, nothing worse than the next day going like this and your jam's going, it's more syrup, you know, it's flopping around in the jar and you're all sad and going, okay, well, I'll just tell everybody I was making raspberry syrup and not jam. And then label it raspberry syrup. So it's going to take it a minute to boil here, because you need to bring it to a full rolling boil, and then add the sugar and stir it in, and then bring it back to a boil, and then you need to boil it for about a minute, and that's when you can test it to see if it's going to gel. It's boiling now, so we're going to add the sugar and stir it in so that it dissolves in there really well, and you can see it's still kind of boiling, but as you stir it, it'll calm down, and it's going to take it a few minutes to recover, especially once you add the rest of the sugar. Well, this is going to make quite a bit of jam, so most recipes on the new pectin jars, you can even make a recipe as small as a couple cups of jam, so you don't have to make giant recipes, giant batches of jam. Small is all the rage now. So you're just going to keep stirring it to help break up any sugar lumps that are in there, and you want it to come back to a boil like it was boiling before. See some of those clumps of sugar in there, you want those to be gone. So you gotta stir it. It will recover. So when you set your timer for your last minute of cooking, this is what you want. When they say a full rolling boil that can't be stirred down, this is what you want, and it's a bit like a lava pit. So you just have to stir really fast and use a long spoon and just stay back from it so that you don't get popped. And it doesn't really take very long, but just be careful you don't get it on you, because it is a little bit like napalm. It doesn't wash off. Well, it does wash off, but it will burn your skin really quickly. Then turn the timer off, turn the heat off. If you take a cold spoon and put it in here, see how those drops gather right there, and it's just kind of stuck on the spoon. That way you know that when it's cold in the jar, it will set. This is definitely going to set when it's cold. If it had just run off the spoon and you didn't have this gelling here, you had your proportions off, or you didn't cook it long enough, or there's several reasons why jam or jelly won't set. But this is a good test. Now it's time to go in the jars. I want to fill it to really up to this little thread here, because you don't want a lot of air in there when so that gives it enough air so that it's going to seal when you after you put it in the water canner, but it's not so much air that it's going to encourage spoiling. Whoops. So then you just want to make sure that you don't have any cracks on the rim of your jar or nicks out of the glass, because that'll keep it from sealing also. And if you have jam or jelly on there, you need to wipe it off, because that'll keep it from sealing too. Just go around the edge real carefully there. Make sure it's nice and clean. Nothing sticky on there. And then you just put your... Well, they just recently changed the rules, or let the rest of us in on it, and said you no longer have to boil your caps and your lids separately, because when you put them in the boiling water, they're gonna be sterilized anyway. So just in case you were wondering why I wasn't boiling them, but the jars were sterilized beforehand. Which I don't know why they don't say you don't need to sterilize the jars anymore either, because, well, anyways. So they're going to go for 10 minutes, and that was just the jar sealing. They're going to go for 10 minutes in the boiling water, and as long as it's boiling, you can set your timer. And then when you hear them snap, like you did a minute ago, it means they're sealing. See, this one's already caved in. There's one that's sealed. And these guys will seal here in just a few minutes, probably. So I hope you liked our video. If this was helpful, and if you learned something, like our video, check out our website, littleredbarnproduce.com, and check out our Facebook page.